The Sisters of Dorley by Alyson Greaves. Chapter 6. When I Get Around to It. 2019, October 15th, Tuesday. She's wearing ordinary sleeping clothes. A long nightgown with a cutesy pattern on it, leggings and an open shirt, loose enough to hang off her shoulders, with the now damp sleeves split away up her forearms. Her mid-brown hair, which hung around her chin when he first met her, is now brushed messily out of her eyes, with the longer strands gathered in a small ponytail, and her face, still slightly wet, shines around her cheeks. Stefan can't remember the last time he saw a woman who was so beautiful. To recenter himself, he pulls back his sleeves and scratches the back of his hand. An old habit. He habitually hides his hands from himself under shirts 2 sizes too big, pulled so far over his fingers that he wears out the fabric in weeks, but sometimes, when he needs the self-control, he'll expose them, run fingers around each other, pick at the flesh at the base of the thumb, examine the tight skin, the stubby nails, the veins that lace elbow to knuckle, self-hatred as self-indulgence. When he was younger, a teacher caught him stabbing himself in the palm with a compass, sent him to the head of year for punishment. He hadn't been able to explain to her why he was doing it, only that he felt compelled to. Christine's hands, so graceful compared to his, are currently clasped in front of her, fingers intertwined and fidgeting, and they betray her mood as surely as his. Now buried again in his lap, and the sleeves of his hoodie pulled tight betray his. "Stefan," she says, "what do you mean you want to stay?" Even the way her lips move. "I need a moment," he manages to say, pulling the words out like staples. She nods, raises a finger to tuck a lock of hair behind her ears, bites her lip. She's worried about him, and he should be grateful for her concern, but all he can see in her now, all he can think about, is the girl he might have become. Come clean with yourself, Stefan, while it's not too late. Admit to yourself, once and for all, what you know you've been denying since you were old enough to sort men from women. Trust the part of yourself that knows you well enough to realize that this place, obscene though it seems, is the only place left that can help you. What are your doubts, really? That you've never been able to say, with no caveats, even to yourself, I am a woman? Does that even matter? Say, I want to be a woman, instead, because that fits, and you can go from there. Even I don't want to be a man is enough. Why would it need to be more? Who's judging you, really, apart from yourself? You'll think you'll be ugly, unpassable? Does that even matter anymore? In the face of a losing battle you're fighting with yourself? Besides, if you think you're going to take this place's resources for yourself, well, every woman you've seen here is beautiful, and surely some of them have started out like you. You think you can't do it? You think you're not strong enough? Then what better place for you than right here where they will make you do it? Stefan swallows. Incredible that it takes a place like this to make it all so simple. Assuming he believes Christine, of course. Her claims, while they somewhat perversely explain the whole setup he's seen down here, describe something so absurd he can still barely grasp at it. She's a woman who was once a man, brought here against her will and changed. And so is Melissa. He can just about imagine Christine as a trans girl who caught her testosterone puberty early enough to negate or mitigate the worst of its effects, or who got a very lucky play in the genetic lottery. It's harder to imagine her as being like one of the men he met before, swaggering around in the basement, reveling in unpleasantness. She got upset when he called her a man. How can someone be transformed so completely? What do you know, Stefan Riley? Mark/Melissa was very unhappy for her whole last year of school, and looking back with adult eyes, for a lot longer than that. At the time, he believed she was just really lonely, as friends of hers moved on and she didn't replace them. With hindsight, he read it as dysphoria. But what if it was something else? Something darker? What if she came here to Saints alone and did something bad enough to be taken by the sisters? No, he knows her. No matter who she became in that time, she wouldn't hurt anyone, ever. He only realizes he's shaking his head in disbelief when Christine says, "What is it?" "I can't believe you," he says. "What?" It bursts out of her as she spins on her heel and she walks away from the cell a few paces towards the far wall. "No," she says, turning around and pointing at him. "You have to believe me. Do you know how hard it was for me to just fucking tell you my history? You think I like talking about it? Christine, he says, pushing himself back up against the wall, standing but leaning on the concrete for support, not trusting his shaking legs. None of this makes any sense. I mean, look at you. Yes, she says, frowning. So what? When we met, I thought you were a cis girl. And I can believe you're trans, just like really lucky or incredibly rich. But then you tell me you're a careful Stefan. And Melissa? He says, the dizziness is back. If he could dig his fingers into the wall, he would. You expect me to believe she did something so awful it warranted kidnapping and transforming her? She's not like that, Christine. She's a good person. She was never anything but kind to me. Christine starts, but interrupts herself, slaps the glass wall. Shit. I should have guessed this would be a sticking point. She glares at him. Why do you want to stay, Stefan? I'll tell you when you start making sense. I could just drag you out of here, you know. She pulls her phone out of her pocket and waves it at the lock on the door. It buzzes open, startlingly loud even compared to their raised voices. I'll shout, Stefan says, desperate. You're not supposed to be down here, right? I'll raise hell. Everyone will come running. Shit, she says and kicks the glass. What if I just leave you here to rot? You'll find out how much fun this place can be. Good, he yells. Christine near screams in frustration and slaps a hand over her mouth, swears under her breath, closes her eyes and leans against the far wall. Her chest rises and falls as she calms herself. When she opens her eyes again, she says, let's talk. I need to understand this place, Stefan says, unprepared to back down just yet. And you, and Melissa. He realizes he's taken several steps forward. Carefully, he steps back to the support of the wall before his adrenaline collapses and takes him with it. Okay, Christine says, making conciliatory gestures with both hands, but you have to know we're running out of time. If I don't get you out of here in the next hour or so, that's it. You're here for good. So ask your questions quickly and don't waste time bugging me if there's something I won't answer. Why wouldn't you? There are a lot of secrets here, she says, and not all of them are mine to share. Okay, Stefan says. I get it. Can I trust you, Stefan? She says. When he nods, she pushes open the unlocked door and joins him in the cell, sitting heavily on the concrete and wincing as her outstretched hand takes more of the force than she expected. It's the first time he's been in the same space as her since the party. Her shampoo smells of strawberries. He sits opposite her, cross-legged, less than 30 centimeters between them. All the raised voices, she explains, pushing the door shut with a toe. It makes me nervous. If I'm going to shout again, I want another layer between us and everyone else. You want to understand Melissa, she says, how she ended up in here. Yeah, I can't believe she became someone like Aaron or Will or Martin. Never in a million years. Christine starts tapping on her phone. This is a huge no-no, by the way, she says. When someone leaves this place, or is on the verge of it, like me, her past is hers. It's another country, another planet. She's someone new with her own choices to make. The man who was here before is, for all intents and purposes, dead. And good riddance. This whole place fails otherwise. I got it. I won't ask anyone. But I need to make you understand Dorley, so for you, I'm breaking that rule just this once. And only because I think Melissa will understand, okay? She adds, after frowning at her phone for a moment. I found it. Abby's final write-up. Highly confidential. You need 2 source authorization to get at this. She grins. Or you have to be me. Good news, she didn't do anything violent. Abby doesn't go into all the dirty details. Those will be the intake files in the office upstairs. It gets purged from the database every couple years. But it looks like Melissa was starting to go down a dark path. Isolated, self-destructive, yada yada. She twirls a finger. Questionable online activity. Nothing we haven't seen before. After years of watching men like that grow up and see the things they end up doing, Aunt B started recommending we take them. There might have been some kind of accident here, reading between the lines. Accident? It wouldn't have been a serious one, Christine says. Maybe a near miss? Something that could have gone bad but didn't? Nobody was hurt, whatever happened. The personnel files are marked if there's been a death or a serious injury, and we generally don't bring in killers anyway. Yes, Martin, I know, but that wasn't deliberate. Abby is being her usual self here. The woman could see good in the devil, I swear, but reading through... Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have the picture now. We have men like her occasionally, nihilistic, lonely, mostly only are a danger to themselves. A handful of them go on to do really terrible things. She must have done or said something to make one of us think she was potentially dangerous in future, but still worth saving. So we brought her in, and I've been reminded, she adds, rolling her eyes, we're not a court of law. We're a secret extrajudicial dungeon. Our standards of evidence can be like half bad vibes. Changing a man into a woman is about saving him? She looks at him like he just questioned the color of the sky. Well, yeah, saved me. And all those guys out there, they're worth saving. She nods. Aunt B thinks so, and officially so do Maria and Pippa and the rest. I mean, those guys are definitely all awful people. Probably all of them bigger bastards than everyone our intake except the one guy that washed out. I wouldn't be sorry, personally, if every single one of them followed him. Washed out. Which is why I'm not, and I will never be a sponsor. Although, I think we might have bitten off more than we can chew with some of these guys. Wanting to change, wanting to be saved is part of it, and not everyone does. Sometimes someone is just too big a piece of shit. Too invested in their own supposed masculinity. Too unable to see over their massive dick. Jesus. Yeah, well, noble goals, unpleasant methods. I'm getting that. You believe me now. Maybe. Enough to answer my question. Maybe. Please, Stefan, she says. I have to understand why you want to stay. I know I can come off like a bit of a mean bitch, but I can't stand the thought of leaving someone down here who doesn't deserve to be here. You don't come off like a bitch. Oh? I've been thinking of you as pretty kind, actually. She laughs. It's cynical and over almost as soon as it starts. And when it's done, she's not looking at him anymore. Thank you, she says quietly. As for why I want to stay, he says and lapses into silence. He considers prefacing his statement with the usual justifications he marshals when he imagines this moment. Stories from his childhood and his difficult teenage years, his litany of self-loathing. But it's finally clear those were all just excuses, a preemptive defense against his disclosure being considered ridiculous or disgusting or impossible. It's bad enough for a boy to claim to be a girl, particularly a masculine-looking boy to do so. He bites his tongue to stop himself from spiraling, and the pain returns him to the present. Christine's looking at him again, her earlier irritation and anger replaced by honest interest, and he briefly tries to imagine her here, waking up in the cell, as whoever she was back then, as a man. Almost impossible. Except she's almost exactly his height, a couple of centimeters taller maybe. He noticed when they were standing, yelling at each other, noticed when she kissed him when they first met. A single small way in which, despite the gulf between them, they are more or less alike. Maybe womanhood isn't so unattainable after all. I want to say because I think I want to be a girl, he says quickly, before he can take it back. And he winces. He managed to force that equivocation in there anyway. A little doubt, a little wiggle room, enough to let him take it back should he need to. Fuck that. I am a girl, he says. A trans girl, as in... I'm understood, she says, smiling, and she blinks and her eyes widen. Shit, it all makes sense now. That's why you were looking for this place. You were looking for Melissa, for your friend, and like you said, because you thought she's trans and... God. Yeah, he says, matching her smile. I thought she lot helped her transition. I mean, we did, just, not like that. I was genuinely looking for her as well, he says. It's true that I wanted Dorley's help, but I wanted to see her again too. I missed her. Warmth spreads from his chest as he remembers the last time he saw her close up. Pictures of the smile on her face as she gave him back his absurd little books of stuffing outside the Tesco. I miss her so much. Christine holds out a hand, and Stefan, after a moment's hesitation, takes it. Her fingers are warm. Christine blushes, withdraws, and says, So, to be clear, because I think in this situation we need to be incredibly clear, you're planning on undergoing biomedical and possibly surgical treatment to become a girl, yes? And yeah, I know, become a girl is cis-sexist framing, but it's okay, he says. It's the easiest way to be sure. Draw the stick figures first, paint on the detail later. He giggled, feeling dizzy again. He always thought he didn't have dysphoria, had never seriously connected the idea to the way he feels about his body. If his first encounter with Pippa, where she gendered him viciously male and forced him to dissociation, showed him how absurd that idea was, then sharing a space with Christine, again, is final confirmation. He wants what she has, wants it so desperately and completely it's a challenge to think about anything else. Now he just needs to make sure she doesn't take him away from the place that can give it to him. Oh, sorry, he adds, seeing her frown. That's just something Melissa used to say when she helped with my homework. Abby says something very similar sometimes. Probably got it from Melissa. They're close, are they? Christine rolls her eyes. Incredibly close. We often bond with our sponsors. Indira, my sponsor, is like my older sister, but they're closer than most. Abby was a mess when Melissa moved out. And they talk constantly. Like, you're in a room with Abby and you hear her tapping away on the phone, odds are she's talking to Melissa. Sometimes she shows me the terrible memes she sends. Good, Stefan says. I don't like to think of her being lonely, that's all. So, to answer your question, yes, I want to become a girl, hormonally, surgically, whatever, in any way and every way possible. Then this is the wrong place for you, Steph, Christine says, switching to a more gender-neutral version of his name. We're not set up for actual, real trans girls, and I have no idea what Aunt B would do to an outsider who knows so much about us. She might be benevolent and give you everything. She might honestly kill you just to keep the secret. I'm scared of her, and I'm not the only one. Like I said, we don't know what happens to the ones who wash out. God, she adds, rubbing her face. This whole situation won't stop getting more fucked up. I'm so sorry I dragged you into this. I dragged myself into this, remember? He says. And besides, I didn't intend to tell anyone. Please don't tell me you're saying what I think you're saying. I'll be one of the asshole guys, Stefan says, spreading his hands the way Christine had when she came out to him. Steph, that's insane. They're already set up to think of you as a terrible person, a terrible man, and if you stay here, that's how you'll be treated. And we go hard here. Dorley Hall is the place where toxic masculinity comes to die, to be killed by us. We hammer it out of them over and over again because the men we bring down here, most of them cling to their masculinity like, she hesitates, then laughs weakly, like it's driftwood in the middle of the ocean. Even as they get farther and farther from the shore, they can't bring themselves to let go because they've never known anything else. We have to pry their fingers off, one by one, force them to learn how to swim. She looks away again. It's something Dira said to me, several times. She's resting her forearms on her knees, staring at the wall. She's repeatedly flicking her forefinger against her thumb, playing with the lower lip with her teeth. A collection of nervous habits, a picture of grace. Stefan balances jealousy with disbelief. You keep saying you were down here, he says, that you were not like you are now. I'm trying, but I still can't picture it. Good, she shudders. I don't want you looking at me and seeing them, even though maybe you should. Before Stefan can interject to contradict her, she continues. I know what I said about saving them, but the guys down here, right now, are nasty, bigoted, small-minded, and either so astonishingly sexist they're incapable of thinking of women as real people, or so blisteringly nihilistic they're practically solipsists. And all of them have hurt people. Mostly women, but not all. This place, Dorley, what it does, it makes people out of bastards by turning men into women, by taking away their masculinity, she says, prodding a finger into the floor with every word. They're driftwood. These are men who have only one lens to see the world through, and it's a fucking distorted one. A lot of them don't even realize how skewed their view is. It's perfectly possible to be masculine and a good person, but the official position here, explained to me at some length, is that it's almost impossible to reform somebody whose masculinity has curdled. It's poisoning them and everyone around them, but they don't know it. So it has to be completely excised, extracted from their psyche with a scalpel, layer by layer, until there's nothing left of whoever existed before they were poisoned. It doesn't always come out cleanly. I can't believe it's the only way to change them. She doesn't get frustrated this time. She smiles wryly, like she thinks it's naive. Then you try it, she says. Fix them. Take one of those guys and fix him without changing anything else. And do it before he hits a woman, she scowls. Or hits another woman. Because almost none of them will reform on their own. Not in a country so in love with toxic pigs it puts them in government. That celebrates them on every front page. So actually don't try it. Leave them in here and hope we can change them. But you should go. I can't. Steph, this place will treat you like them. It'll paint you with all their sins and their arrogance and their cruelty, and it will punish you for it. I saw how you were when Pippa got done with you, and that was just a taste. She went easy on you. She did? Yeah, she thought she was triggering you in a way she wasn't trying to trigger you, so she laid off. Which I think was a good omen for your future well-being, except the other sisters, the more experienced ones, told her you seemed like one of those total psychos who do the wounded innocent guy routine until the girl dropped her guard, and she should treat you just like one of them. Do I really come across that way? No, you seem like, I don't know, a nice kind of girl, kind of sad, maybe. Please don't do that. Do what? Don't call me a girl. But you are a girl. You said, I don't deserve it. Steph, that is super fucked up. You don't deserve your gender. Christine frowns and she says it. She trips up a little in the middle of her sentence. It's just your gender, she adds thoughtfully. It's yours. Maybe that's the wrong way to say it, he says. Thinking it through, he continues. I don't like who I am now. Who I've been for the last, 5 years? More? I'm not dangerous. Not the way the guys are out there, but I'm not anyone I can be proud of. I've never grown, Christine. I've wilted. I'm barely alive, and I don't want this guy, he jabs himself in the chest with an aggressive thumb, to be someone I carry through into my future. I want to start again, to become someone new, and I think if you call me a girl right now, it taints who I want to be. If that makes sense? Yeah, she says. It makes sense. A scary amount of sense, actually. Which it shouldn't, because my gender formed in here, in this pressure cooker. You think that it's different out there for a closeted trans girl? She's been leaning forward, and she catches herself, bites her lip again and sits back. Yeah, she says slowly. I don't know. I never was one, but yeah, maybe it's not. And if you don't want me calling you a girl, should I start calling you Stefan again? Steph's fine. Melissa always called me Steph. Okay, good. I still think this is the worst possible place for you. I know you look at Melissa or Pippa or even me and think that because we turned out okay, you can too, but we are very different people from you when we came here. I can't leave, Stefan says. This place will hurt you. He smiles. I think you need to understand where I'm coming from. I've been denying myself for almost as long as I've been alive. There's always been a reason. Maybe every boy feels this way, I thought. Maybe I'm not like those other trans people. The real trans people. And then later, as I grew up, it became, I'm too masculine looking to transition. I'm not strong enough to transition. Okay, but listen, this is important. I've always known. And I've always denied it. And every year I've denied it, it's gotten worse. Every year I've made it harder for myself. And not just because I've gotten more and more masculine, although I have, because I've got weaker and weaker. Less and less able to cope with just living, let alone transitioning. It's like there's a cliff in front of me and it keeps getting taller and the handholds keep getting farther apart. And I know I should have started climbing years ago, but I've never even tried because I'll know I'll fall. I can help you, Christine says, almost pleading. I'll get you out of here and then I'll help you. You can't help me enough. Not unless I'm in here. This place will kill you, Steph, she whispers. He laughs suddenly, surprises himself with it, but the adrenaline's back and carrying him through this bizarre confessional with a forthrightness he hadn't imagined himself capable of. I won't pretend dealing with Pippa wasn't hard, but if I know what to expect, I can prepare for it. It's more than what she just said to you. It's a total psychological invasion. And there will be months where we make you feel shame for the changes we're putting your body through. I'm still not quite over that myself. You can't make me feel shame for changes I want. Yes, but what kind of changes are we talking about? Specifically, HRT? Yeah. That's already started, actually, with the anti-androgen implant. You get a new one every so often. They dissolve. The little bump on his belly. Stefan places a protective finger over it. How long are just the implant? And do they do anything to make the implant not necessary anymore? Estradiol in like a month? 2 months? It depends. And she trails off and shakes her head, looks irritated at herself. Yeah, Orchie at the 6-month mark. Sorry, I wasn't going to tell you about it. It's kind of my default to assume anyone down here would find the idea terrifying. I did. How did you deal with it when it happened to you? She bites her finger for a second and inspects the tooth imprints. Some of the others got really angry. I just shut down. Wouldn't talk to Dira for a couple of weeks. Vicky talked me around in the end. Vicky? She was in the program with us. I don't know what for to this day, but she got it right from the start. Where I was at the end of the first year, that was her after like a month. Is she trans? She says she isn't, just adaptable and very eager to leave her old self behind. I'm so sorry it was hard for you, Stefan says. I know how it must feel, me coming here asking for all this. No, Christine says. You don't need to apologize. I needed remaking. It hurt, but... and I don't resent you or anything. Not that I understand why you're here. I just think you're making a huge mistake. What else did you get? Stefan says, returning to his point. Yeah, laser for me, electrolysis for the blondes and redheads like you. Facial surgery? Yeah, for most. You? She glares at him. Yes? She snaps and then holds up her hand in apology. Sorry, I'm defensive about it, but I probably shouldn't be. Not with you anyway. I had this bit shaved down. She runs a finger across her forehead. And a nose job. Oh, she adds, rubbing at her neck. I had a trach shave. I look like a giraffe who swallowed a tennis ball. What about your voice? Her smile returns. Oh, that's all me. Hours of practice every day. Even got singing lessons. I know all the words to almost everything Taylor Swift ever recorded. Huh. I thought you'd have got vocal surgery or something. How'd they make you do that? What? Oh, they didn't. I was cooperating by that point. More than cooperating. I couldn't wait to be a new person. Practically begged Dira to let me start the lessons early. And that happens to everyone, Stefan asks. Most. After a point, if you don't get on board, you get put back to the start, or you wash out, and that's that. We don't all proceed through the steps the same way, though. Every sponsor is different, every girl is different. So, Stefan nods, leaning forward. How much do you think all that cost? The last question surprises her. I don't know, she admits. Last time I looked, I had less than 20 quid in my bank account. All that stuff, couldn't afford it in 100 years. So let's math it out, yeah? Christine suddenly looks like a small forest animal caught in the headlights of the night bus. Stefan starts counting on his fingers. Hormones, that's like, what, 50 a month? Getting them online? At a guess? Maybe? As for FFS, I know some girls who don't need it at all to pass, but I spent a long time looking at this face. I'm under no illusions. I need the works. Brow job, nose job, hairline, jaw work, chin work, trach shave, tens of thousands of pounds. Electrolysis, another grand on the pile. What about the NHS? Maybe I try it, get hormones and bottom surgery for free, but they don't do FFS, and even speech therapy is hard to get, and the whole process is, from what I've read, frustrating, humiliating, and dehumanizing. And do you know how long the waiting list is? Yes, Christine says, nodding, clearly on firmer ground. Vicky's girlfriend has been waiting 2 years already. She gets her HRT out of our supply. She bangs her head on the glass again. Shit, Steph, I did not just say that. It's a secret, but actually, that's it. I can get that for you. You can get me free hormones. Yes, free facial surgery, free electrolysis. Well, no. Pay my rent, buy my food. No, because I need all that stuff. I'm not some wealthy student with transition resources coming out of my ass and a loving family backing me all the way. I'm falling apart, Christine. All that's left of me is the front I put up. I'm probably already fired for missing work, but I was on the way to getting shit-canned anyway. Even with my job, which I hate, I can't make rent for more than a few other months. And maybe I could have done better, got more hours at work, got a better job, tried harder in my classes, whatever. But it takes everything I have to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Forget transitioning, I can barely survive. And if I somehow got hormones, it wouldn't fix everything else, except I'd be a complete hermit because I'm not strong enough to transition out in the world. I don't know how other trans women do it. I just know I can't. The thought of other people looking at me. Hey, Christine takes his hand again. He's shaking, he realizes. Steph, it's okay. Breathe. He almost snaps at her, but it dies in his throat. He takes a deep breath instead, lets it out slowly. Then there's Dorley. Everything I need, all in one place. Wasted on guys like Aaron and Will and that drunk driver piece of shit. Not wasted, Christine says. It wasn't wasted on me, or Melissa. But you didn't ask for it, did you? We needed it. And so do I. And so do any other number of trans people. I know. Her shoulders slump. God, Steph, I know. Don't you think I'd love to give our shit to every trans person at Saints? I'm not accusing you, but can you imagine what it's like, yeah? Seeing this bounty get handed out while I can't even afford to get a bloody estrogen pill. I get it, she says. I wish it was different, but I'm not in charge. I just live here. Christine, he says, raising his voice, I don't understand. How are you not completely miserable? How are you not clawing at your own skin? You say you're not trans, but they made you into a girl. I don't even know your real name. It's Christine, she says, hardening. Stupid boy. Keep calm, idiot. Sorry, I didn't mean it like that. Or maybe I did, but you're making my head spin. I'm having to make myself remember that you seem so normal and nice, and then it hits me again, and I don't get how this isn't a living nightmare for you. Why wouldn't it be? Being a girl isn't so bad, but I don't think it's the same for me as it is for you. It can't be so simple. It isn't. Not really, but we don't have time to get into it right now. For now, Steph, you just have to accept that I'm fine. I'm happy, and so is Melissa, so's Abby, so's my other friends who you don't even know, even Pippa. And there's his opening. I want to be happy too, he says. Please, Christine, help me be happy. She raises a finger, lowers it, contemplates for a moment. Shit, Stefan, I give in. Your financial conclusions are impossible to argue with. We have obscene resources here, and it's only right you should benefit from them. And you know what's going on in your head better than I do. If you really think you can survive this place, honestly, he says, I don't know if I can. But I know I won't make it out there. This is my last chance, Christine. I have no money, no friends. I'm struggling with my classes. I need, at the very least, major facial work done. You're not being fair to yourself with that, Christine insists. You never know what HRT will do. Oh, now that I've seen you, do you think I could be happy out there? Rolling the dice, hoping against hope that hormones will plump up my face to disguise all this? He waves a contemptuous hand at his face. Can almost feel the ugly contours in the air that passes under his fingers. You're gorgeous, Christine. Absolutely beautiful. Don't scowl, you are. And if I stay, I don't just get the transition, which may very well save my life. I get the chance to be beautiful, like you. Out there, even if I start on HRT immediately, and even if it ultimately changes my face beyond my wildest dreams, I've still got to live long enough to get there. Months and months, years maybe, finding ways to make money, go to classes, to struggle along with life. And those are all things I've already failed at. It's terrifying, Christine, and I just can't face it. I need what you have. Even if you have to go through hell to get it. I'm in hell, he says. At least your hell has catering. Christine, dear, weren't you endeavouring to sleep? Christine raises her head from the kitchen table and on the second try successfully props it up on what is, at a guess, currently her most reliable hand. In front of her, in assorted states of focus, are an empty coffee mug, a half-eaten croissant, a half-dozen other girls looking on with concern and or amusement, and Aunt B, standing in the double doors and frowning at her like the Queen of Hearts sweeping into her court and finding it packed with Mad Hatters, Alicers, and rodents hiding in her teapot. At least two of the Alicers escape while Aunt B's attention is on her. I endeavoured, Christine says, wincing at the gravel in her voice. I really did. It didn't help, and I have classes today. Your studies are important, of course, Aunt B allows. She makes a beeline for the coffee maker. A refill, perhaps. It's not like Aunt B to wait on her girls. Christine doesn't know whether to be flattered or concerned. Thank you, Aunt B, she says, holding up her mug and regretting not picking something more dainty and feminine than a chunky grey, round Tuit. Aunt B pours coffee and oat milk and grins at Christine's choice. Ah, she says, always a favourite of mine. Rather a fun joke. On the other hand, maybe Christine picked exactly the right one. Boomer humour. She smiles her gratitude and immediately drains half the mug, taking care not to slurp. Steph must have kept her up until 5 this morning, arguing, brainstorming, and eventually just talking. He might be an idiot for wanting to stay, for all that she ultimately came to agree that, in a world with no good options left for him, this might, absurdly, be the least awful. But at least he's an enjoyable conversationalist. For a moment, Christine wishes that, on the first night they'd met, they'd both been what they'd appeared to be. A cis girl and a cis boy, meeting at a party. For an hour or so, she'd felt normal. She finishes her coffee. Hi all, Pippa says, marching into the kitchen from the hallway and looking disgustingly chipper, like she's just woken up for 9 restful hours of dreams about how super horrible she's going to be to Steph. Oh, Christine, you poor thing. You look terrible. You're so kind, Christine mumbles. Aunt B is handing out coffees to all the sisters in the kitchen, picking only the most dubiously funny mugs off the mug tree. Pippa's has a repeating pattern of a cartoon ant and bee around the rim, which takes Christine a second to get. Blearily, she looks down at the rows of the coffees on the table, all provided by the custodian of Dorley Hall, all in novelty mugs. One of them says in thick black letters, "You don't have to be a girl to work here, but it helps." Aunt B must be in an unusually good mood. A serotonin jolt from the addition of the new boy to the torture basement, perhaps. I'm actually very mean, Pippa says, pulling the chair out next to Christine and bumping gently against her arms as she sits down. And you know it. Christine grimaces at her, prompting Pippa to rub her shoulder in gentle encouragement. Christine hasn't been in the 3rd year of the program for all that long, and up until the last few days she'd been spending time mainly with Indira, Abby, Paige, and Vicky. Maybe everyone is being nice to her is just what happens when you're no longer a 2nd-year scrub. Suddenly, just one of the girls. Actually, she remembers, Vicky's been hanging around with all the other sisters since she started her 2nd year. Possibly they've all been waiting for Christine to stop being quite so consistently antisocial then. Yes, you're very mean, Christine agrees. They inhale their coffee in silence for a little while, until Pippa pulls out her phone and starts scrolling through her notes on Steph, and reminding Christine she has an obligation to fulfill before she leaves for her linguistics workshop. Pippa, I wanted to talk to you about the disappearance. Have you done it yet? Everyone inducted into the program disappears, as Steph noticed when he started his investigation. Engineering the circumstances of the disappearance and ensuring no suspicion falls on Dorley Hall is the responsibility of the sponsor. It apparently hadn't occurred to Steph that he would be required to disappear too, and the thought of him made him quite distressed. Just because he wasn't close with his parents, he insisted, doesn't mean he wants his family to think he's dead. He's just been scared of what they'll say when they find out he's a girl, that's all. But no sooner had Christine thought she'd found the one motivation that would wake him up from his madness, than the little shit came up with an idea, and an irritatingly good one at that. If Christine had been half as together in her first week. Not yet, Pippa says. Her eyes dart to Aunt B, who was buttering toast and paying no attention. I was just going to have him vanish on the way to work, you know? Keep it simple. What if he doesn't have to disappear at all, Christine says, leaning hard on the caffeine and wishing there was considerably more of it in her blood. I had an idea. It requires his cooperation, but I don't think it'll be difficult to get it. Oh? Why would he cooperate so early in the program? He's been here less than a week, has he not? Days, Aunt B, Pippa says. I accelerated his induction to bring him in line with the schedules of the others. Wise. So, Christine, why do you think he'll cooperate? There's that adrenaline rush. Christine swallows and locks her legs so they can't run away without her. I know him. A little, she says, running through the story they concocted together. He takes linguistics like me. Different years, but a girl in my advanced unit knows him pretty well from the module they did together last year. She wanted to set me up with him, actually. She adds on, laying the shyness as thickly as she dares. If she could force a blush, she would, but the capillaries in her cheeks are as tired as the rest of her. We talked a couple times. I kind of liked him. Not like that way, but I thought he was sweet. I was surprised to see him in here. He didn't seem like the type. They often don't, one of the other at the table says. Edie, nice girl, drinking from a mug that says, shoe therapy is better than regular therapy. Borrowed one from Christine's skirts. Nice. Never gave it back. Sponsoring someone this year. Is it Adam? The demons make you gay, nut? What's your idea? Aunt B asked, with every impression of encouragement. I think he should go travelling. Christine air quotes with just one careful finger. She needs the other to rest up her head. He's been having problems with his classes and at least one of his professors. He did resits over summer, and everyone knows he's not been happy. Wouldn't be hard to create the impression he's just decided to forget everything and take a year or 3 off. Go off grid, backpacking around Europe or something. Everyone knows he's unhappy, Aunt B says. Why not take the suicide route? It's considerably simpler. Suicide means attention, sometimes even more attention than a disappearance. And we've got a big haul this year. I've heard people talking about missing boys. A lie, but one with a purpose. She really does think they need to be more careful, both with who they haul in. The evidence she manufactured for Steph isn't the sketchiest she's seen, and how they handle the cover stories. With any luck, she can prompt a rethink without ever having to suggest it herself. Now, he's not all that close with his parents, but he has a little sister, and when he talks about her, he lights up. She can't help smiling. The video he showed her on his phone back at the party of his sister playing the trombone was adorable, and his love for her had been so obvious she had to... Oh, God, she kissed him, didn't she? No more alcohol for Christine for a good long time. Christine, Aunt B prompts. Oh, she says, and shakes her head, making a show of clearing it. Sorry, just remembering a conversation we had about her. He really does love her, and her thinking he's dead, he'll hate it. He'll fight it. Might even resist the program because of it. So instead, she raises a finger, fatigue forgotten. You offer him an out. Outline the way the things normally go. Vanishes on the way to work. Is declared missing. Family informed. Grief. Memorial service. Years and years of trauma for his little sister. And then you say, there's another way. She points at an imaginary Steph in the middle of the table. All he has to do is handwrite a couple letters. One for his family and one for the guys he lived with, saying he's gone traveling, gone to find himself. He can include a bunch of authentic personal details to really sell it. And then police, no investigation. No one showing up at his doorstep and telling him that he's missing. And his baby sister doesn't have to grow up with a dead older brother, always wondering what happened to him. Her phrasing is deliberate. Pippa has a cousin, and Abby says she misses her dearly. Sure, eventually he doesn't come back from Europe, or whatever, but we just don't tell him that part. Actually, Steph insisted to Christine that he can just leave once he's got everything he needs from Dorley and go to see his sister in person. And if Aunt B deploys the usual threats to stop him, he can ask to have his records unsealed and show her that he, by then Christine assumes she, was kidnapped on a lie. Will it work? Only God knows. Aunt B hums in thought. It's a workable plan, she says, and Christine carefully doesn't show her relief. But it does tip our hand as to how long we expect him to stay with us. Information that's up to the sponsor to deploy or withhold. Information he might pass on to the others. What do you think, Pippa? After all, he is your charge. He is Pippa's responsibility, she means. The buck, brackets, dough, stops with her. We'll have to pretend he has a chance to see his sister again, Pippa says, frowning. But that's probably a useful lever. Yes, she nods to herself. Once he's written the letters, I can hold them over him. Say I'll release information to his family that suggests he's died while backpacking abroad, unless he fully cooperates with the program. Carrot and stick. Handy for some of the more complex elements of the program. Christine sips some more coffee so she doesn't snort in amusement. If Pippa's thinking about the orgy, she's not going to have any problems with Steph on that front. The boy's ready for the snip right now. She controls a wince, remembering the sheer panic when she woke up from hers. one of the hardest days. And I doubt he'll tell the others anything, Pippa continues. He hates them. A lot more than I expected. She looks thoughtful. He might not like seeing himself in them. Anyway, I can make his silence a requirement. She starts contemplating for her mug and looks up at Aunt Bee. It's a good idea. Excellent, Pippa. Proceed with my blessing. And well done, Christine. In a perfect world, Christine would be allowed to faint as the adrenaline leaves her system. But she has subterfuge maintain and a linguistics workshop to get to. She takes the offered second refill from Aunt Bee, downs it, and accepts a grateful hug from Pippa, and manages not to stagger from fatigue until she's halfway along the campus and safely out of everyone's sight. He's not trying to antagonize Pippa by being caught in yoga poses whenever she visits him, but there's nothing else to do in this concrete box except sleep or begrudgingly operate the horrible squat metal toilet. Perhaps panic, and that's possible to root around for Stefan now that he has a better handle of what's going on. These concrete boxes were clearly designed to psych people out who have had less practice at him than carefully avoiding spending time alone with their thoughts. She glares at him, and he glares back, trying to communicate non-verbally that if she doesn't want to find him with his feet over his head, she should provide magazines. She looks good, though. Stefan's sample size of Dorley women currently stands at 2, with background data provided by a few glances at the one he thinks is Maria and one whose names he doesn't know. And he can't help but be intrigued at the way these women who were once, supposedly, ordinary cis men who were extremely unpleasant in unspecified but luridly implied ways, choose to present themselves. Christine, with the exception of the night they met, always seems to dress in simple, comfortable, unfeminine clothes with little to no makeup, as Stefan might expect from a new-ish woman who was still acclimatizing to her role. Pippa, by contrast, seems to live in dresses. Today's is dark green, gathers around the mid-calf, and bears a pattern of roses down her left side. She wears heeled sandals, which, he notices as he stands to meet her, elevate her almost to exactly his height, and a simple, handmade bracelet around her right wrist. It looks old and well-loved, like she's worn it every time he's seen her. She accentuates her pale skin with dark eye makeup that stands out brilliantly under her bleached pixie cut. In the absence of evidence to the contrary, and after several hours of conversation with and verbal pummeling from Christine, he's had to accept that the women of Dorley, the sisters, genuinely are who she says they are. He's also very much not supposed to know that at this stage of the program, so he tries not to stare, and wonders if he can get away with complimenting Pippa's eyeliner, because it's great. He remembers, moments before he opens his mouth, that he's supposed to be confused, disoriented, and extremely unhappy to be locked in a basement. At least he has reassurances from Christine that Pippa, after some prompting from the more experienced sponsors, fully expects him to be more of a quiet and manipulative type than a full-blown raging asshole. And while the idea doesn't make him feel good, it at least is easy to play, requiring a little enough of him that he can focus his efforts elsewhere, like preparing for her next attempt at wearing him down. The memory of last time is vivid enough that it flickers a frown onto his face for a moment. Perfect. Use it. Pippa, he says. Well, she replies, have you made your decision? Straight to business. Stay or wash out, yes? And the washouts are never heard from again, correct? Those are your choices. He shrugs, pretends indifference. Then I choose to stay, he can't resist adding. You can't keep me locked up forever after all. Pippa fails to control her smirk at Stefan's rebelliousness. Good. Come with me. Out of the cell, Stefan keeps his distance. Pippa doesn't have guards this time, but he doesn't doubt he's being watched on the monitors by women with tasers and batons and things he doesn't want pointed or swung in his direction. There are male guards too, trained professionals. Christine said they have them stay in a rec room a level up from here, cut off from everything but heavily armed and ready to charge in if needed. She said they're kept intentionally ignorant of most of what goes on here and rotated out regularly, bound to the sort of NDAs major corporations use when they fire people. Wise to keep them out of the loop. In Stefan's experience, men are very protective of other men's masculinity. They round the corner and pass the reinforced glass to the communal rooms. Aaron, clustered around the television with some of the others, watches him pass and fires finger guns with him at a wink that Stefan does not respond to. At the end of the corridor, opposite the entrance to the communal bathroom, there's a pair of opaque double doors. solid and metal and much like Stefan's idea of a security door. Behind them lies another concrete corridor, painted in the duck egg off-white he associates with cheap rental flats. Color theory for you can live here but you won't like it. There's an emergency exit at the far end, described by Christine as leading to 2 more sealed airlock rooms and a long passageway that eventually opens into a pair of bunker doors out in the woods, biometrically sealed and only to be used in, presumably, very slow-moving emergencies. And lining the walls are 10 doors, 5 to each side, all decorated in wood effect laminate. They all look like ordinary bedroom doors that have just materialized inside a concrete bunker, absurdly out of place. They all have the bulky biometric locks, but in deference to the homey atmosphere, they've also been covered in laminate. The door at the end is open, and Pippa guides him into an ordinary dorm room, similar to the one he had his first year at Saints. Slightly nicer, even. There's a generous bed, a wardrobe with full-length mirrors, a set of shelves, a metal desk with a computer, bolted down on closer inspection, and a utilitarian-looking vanity and a chest of drawers. There's even a phone sitting by the computer, presumably with its cellular radio neutered. Still no windows. Stefan makes a mental note to ask about vitamin D supplements. Snaking out from under the bed and nestling in the middle of the duvet is something Stefan's first dorm room didn't have, a pair of handcuffs on the end of a heavy chain. Pippa's been standing in the doorway, and when he sits on the edge of the mattress and waves the cuffs in his hands, she says, "Behave, and you'll never have to put them on. You can tuck them under the bed, and they'll be like they're not even there. Antagonize me, and they'll go on, and they'll stay on until I..." She clicks a device that Stefan hasn't noticed as yet, and the grip in the cuffs pop open. "Say they come off. So don't piss me off, Stefan Riley." He puts them carefully back on the bed. "Understood," he says, and unconsciously massages his wrists. "We have more to discuss, but before we get to it, you need to take a shower." "Now?" She wrinkles her nose. "Now." "Oh, right. Sorry. Must have gotten used to it." Pippa directs him to a bag of toiletries in the vanity and fetches him a clean towel and a dressing gown out of the wardrobe. She escorts him down the hall to the communal bathroom and snorts when he asks for some privacy. He has, she informs him, nothing she wishes to see again. When he saw the bathroom yesterday on his short tour of the facilities, it put him in mind of the changing rooms at his old school, transplanted underground, shrunk a fair bit, and heavily cleaned. There's a full-length mirror by the paper towel dispenser. They really don't want the inmates missing a chance to observe their bodies in full, excruciating detail. And while Stefan would normally avoid his reflection, today he follows an impulse to examine himself. If, in the hands of Pippa and the sisters, his body is going to be remolded, he wants to familiarize himself with the starting state of the clay. He disrobes, down to his underwear, and slings the dressing gown around his shoulders. He wonders where he'll see the changes first, in the rough edges of his face, in his veined, wiry arms, his taut, waxy belly, a legacy of poor diet and persistent poverty. He runs a hand through his hair, spills ginger strands across his forehead, counts the freckles on his cheeks. His finger brushes against his stubble, which breaks the spell. That, at least, he can take care of on his own, right now. He keeps looking at his reflection as he unpacks the little battery shaver. He's been so used to viewing himself, his body, his face as aberrations, mutations forced onto him by a puberty he didn't want. Now, they're still just as ugly to him, but perhaps they no longer represent a trap he can't escape. God, he even smells different. He's been marinating in his own sweat for, nearly 3 days, and the odor isn't at all what he expects. Is that even possible, after just days of having his testosterone blocked? Maybe. Maybe not. Wishful thinking. Will Schroeder interrupts his thoughts, ducking out of the shower annex and rubbing his hair with a towel. In the small mirror over the sink, shaver in hand, Stefan can't stop himself from staring. Will is well built and naked. "What are you looking at, homo?" Will says. "Ah yes, he's also a prick." Stefan buzzes the shaver and starts working on his whiskers, turning his back so he can't see Will in the reflection. He doesn't reply. He doesn't trust himself not to break up mid-sentence because he can't stop picturing the effects of a year of testosterone blockers and estrogen will have on the muscle-bound piece of shit. When the man finally leaves the bathroom, visibly irritated but not having said or done anything else, Stefan loses all control and laughs so hard he drops the electric shaver in the sink. She should be sleeping. Goodness knows she needs it, but Christine is glued to her laptop screen. It's a pivotal time for Steph, after all. Not just his longest conversation yet with Pippa, but one in which they get to discuss the content of the letters he's going to write. He's playing his part tolerably, sitting cross-legged on his new bed and idly turning over the cuffs in his hands as he pretends to think about Pippa's suggestions. To Christine, he comes across as too innocent, even if she didn't already know him. She wouldn't take the boy on the screen for a creep, but institutional inertia is working in their favour. He must be bad. He's at Dorley. Pippa's behaving a little strangely about him, though. She's not being nice to him, heaven forfend, but the edge-of-controlled anger is gone from her voice. Good news for Steph, probably, as long as Pippa doesn't figure him out. She keeps playing with something on her wrist, and suddenly Christine gets it. Pippa's thinking about her cousin, who made her the bracelet she never takes off. Shit. Playing on Pippa's weak spot to get her to agree with the plan definitely seemed to work, but now Christine will have to wonder if such a clumsy manipulation was even necessary. She checks another mark on her mental list of people that she's accidentally hurt as she flails around, attempting to clean up her own mess. Christine slams the laptop lid shut. Be kind to yourself, Christine, she mutters. The hard part's over. Steph's in place, Pippa's going along with it, and Aunt B approved the letter idea. Another normal year begins. 8 boys in the basement, one of whom is, handily, already a girl, so that's a time saver. 6 newly minted girls on the first floor, one of whom is apparently a capable and strangely violent baker, and 6 completely and utterly normal young women on the second floor, one of whom is currently not getting the sleep her body is crying out for and chewing on a finger for stress. She rubs at the tooth imprints and dries it on a tissue. Everything's fine. Not so much for Steph, but at least he's getting what he asked for, even if he's not going to enjoy it much. Relax, she says to herself. When it doesn't unaccountably work, she adds, relax, idiot. She's still a mess, so she puts on 1989, pulls out her phone and starts going through her week planner. She moves her shoulders to the music, lets her tension out with the beat. She laughs, as she always does, at the 1 minute 35 mark. Everybody here was someone else before. It hasn't stopped being funny. Christine sings. 4 tracks in, her intercom goes off. She scrabbles to pause the music and check her room for incriminating evidence and almost falls over a pair of shoes on the way to answer it. It's Abby. Shit, she forgot. She has one last obligation to discharge before things are genuinely back to normal. Chrissy, Abby hisses as soon as the door closes behind her. She wastes no time. What did you find out about Stefan? Okay, Christine says, bouncing back onto the bed. I have so much to tell you, but I might be getting a little manic from fatigue, so if I get weird or I fall asleep mid-sentence, just poke me. Abby pokes her, but Christine's complaints fizzle out when she hands her a can of Red Bull. I came prepared, Abby says. God, Christine says, downing half the can and deciding that with its help she can probably hold off unconsciousness for another hour or two. Thank you. Are you ready for something very complicated and really weird? Abby nods, sitting down on the chair she dragged over from Christine's desk. I came back to Dorley Hall. I live for complicated and weird. Christine belches and grins at Abby's mock censorious eye roll. She's the only one here who doesn't try particularly hard to get her to be more ladylike. Thought you came back here so you wouldn't have to pay rent. I could have more than one reason. So, what's going on with Stefan? Christine launches into the story she agreed with Steph. Helpfully for her tired mind, it's very close to the truth. He didn't want Melissa's best friend thinking ill of him, and Christine assured him that she's trustworthy. They did, however, alter certain details so Christine doesn't come off, in Steph's word, like a psychopath. He's not a bad guy. Not Dorley material at all. No history of violence. No antisocial behavior. He's not here because he's a bastard, Abs. In fact, you were kind of right. You said it was our fault he ended up here, and it kind of is. Because years after Melissa vanished from his life, he saw her. He saw her? Yeah. He saw her. Yeah, Christine smiles. Well, they were both buying groceries. And that's probably something we should be a bit more careful about in the future, just passing that up the chain. I mean, it's kind of a unique set of circumstances. Do you know when he saw her? What year? Yeah, about 3-ish months into a second year. Early 2014. Well then, she was only half done with the changes. and Stefan basically knew her all his life and lived close enough to randomly bump into her. And she looks more like her old self than most of us because she barely had to get any work done. She was always beautiful, even before. She coughs and looks away from Christine. So, it's a perfect storm, really, she continues briskly. We'll just have to be more careful when the girl is local. I don't know if it's ever happened before, actually. I should check. Can I finish my story? Oh, yes. Sorry. Abby taps her temple. Work mode. So, they both recognize each other, and they both know they've recognized each other. She tries to play it off like she's not actually the old Melissa. She just knows her... Sorry, it's confusing. I've forgotten what her old name was, except that it also starts with an M. But he says she knew his name without him ever saying it, and that sort of clinched it. He starts researching us. Us. And he's, 15 at the time? So this is early work, but he's a precocious brat. Brat? Isn't he your age? Christine shrugs. Yeah, I guess, but, I'm almost done with the program and he's just starting. It's weird to think that we're both 21. Anyway, stop interrupting me, she swats at her sister. You interrupted yourself, then stop encouraging me. God, Chrissy, you're so feminine. I know, I'm an example to the other girls. Okay, right. Christine closes her eyes for a moment, tamps down on the slight hysteria that's been building inside her. Too much Red Bull, but she finishes the can anyway. So he researches us and figures out that we have kind of a vanishing problem here at Saints. So maybe Melissa disappearing wasn't just some fluke accident. Maybe it's part of a pattern. Yes, I know, she holds up a finger. We don't exactly come off as a competent and slick operation in this story. I can see it on your face you want to say something, but don't, because I'm not done. He looks into Saints and picks a degree here that he thinks is most likely to make the entry requirements for, studies his ass off. He gets in, starts attending classes, starts looking for Melissa. Takes him another 2 years down to narrow it down to Dorley, though, so, we're not that sloppy. All the same, Abby says, nodding her eyebrows, think I might tag Maria at the weekend and review some procedures. Good idea. So now he knows about Dorley. Not all the facts, not even 10% of the facts, but enough that we're his natural focus, and he goes looking for help on the dark web. Christine resists the urge to wiggle her fingers in a spooky fashion. Invoking the sinister dark web had been her suggestion. Steph's idea had been, I don't know, bitcoins or something. He finds a hacker, they doctor his records so he looks shady as fuck. He stages an incident. Below Pippa's window, as it turns out. And voila, he's inside, ready to start investigating this place. Looking for Melissa, but she's not here, Abby finishes. Oh God, Chrissy, is this really true? Far as I can tell. Christine says, I checked up on his dark web stuff. It looks legit. So he's stuck here. We have to get him out. Yeah, that's what I said. But Christine pauses for effect. He wants to stay. What? That's what I also said. He's trans, Abby. Oh God. Really? Yeah, he's a trans woman. He hasn't been able to transition yet because he says he needs FFS and all that stuff and he's too broke to even buy hormones and he's desperate and actually kind of pissy about how we have all these transition resources that we very deliberately don't use on trans people except, accidentally. And he has a point there, Abs. She has to admit, as he took the words, had she ever had the courage to put them to Aunt B right out of her mouth. Since Vicky started dating Lorna, it's rankled that their procedures have gotten stubbornly basementwards. He wants to game the system. He'll pretend to be like, us, at least until he's gotten everything he needs. That's crazy, Abby says. I thought so too, but he really genuinely believes he has no other option. And I've argued with him for ages about it, and not changed his mind. He won't let me take him out of here, so what choices do we really have? We either tell Aunt B, or we don't. And Abby, I'm a bit scared of what Aunt B might do if we tell her. You don't think she'd wash him out, do you? I don't know that she wouldn't. You know what she's like. I was in the kitchen this morning and she was being all sweetness and light, handing out coffees to the girls. And then she just raises the idea that Pippa should stage a suicide for Steph. Solely because it's the simplest option. That woman's mind can go to dark places on a bloody dime, Abs. I know you're closer to her than I am. But no, Abby says. No, you're right. So we stay quiet? We stay quiet. I mean, Christine says, tapping her nails on the empty can. Ultimately, it's his risk to take. All we have to do is pretend we don't know anything. God, this is fucked up. I know. He really can't transition away from this place? I went through it with him, Christine says. Numbers and everything. Honestly, I think he's right. It sucks, but he's right. Or right enough, anyway. Do you know how long Vicky's girlfriend's been on the waiting list? Abby nods and goes quiet for a moment, taps her thumb on the crook of her elbow, thinking, then she smiles. At least he's going to get the care he needs, even if it's not in an ideal form. And we can assist him, help him weather the storm. Wait, we should be calling her her. He actually asked me not to. He had a whole thing about it, which I won't break your brain with. For now, he asked me not to change pronouns. He likes it when I call him Steph, though. Apparently that's what Melissa always called him. Steph, Abby says, frowning in concentration and muttering under her breath. The way Christine's seen her do when a batch of girls moves up from the basement and he has to commit a lot of new names to memory. Steph, 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 Steph. Christine giggles. I remember you doing that with me. Yep, it was like a day or two after I moved up from the first floor, and I was in the kitchen. Dira was supervising me as I made breakfast, but she got waylaid by a bunch of third-year girls, and it was all really noisy and intimidating. I ended up just kind of huddled in the corner, feeling like one of the rabbits from Watership Down before everything goes to shit. They just came in and squatted down beside me, all, I don't think we've even introduced. Then you gave me your name like you'd never seen me before, and you were the first person I told my name since Dira gave it to me. You talked to me, kept me company for like an hour, made me feel like I wasn't some broken ex-boy. Christine reaches out a hand. Abby takes it and squeezes it in her fingers. How are you always so sweet? Abby looks at her, very serious. I eat a lot of sugar. The distance between them is suddenly too great, and Christine steps off the bed and pulls at Abby's hand. Abby joins her in the middle of the room as they embrace, arms locked around each other. Abby's standing on tiptoes so she could rest her head on Christine's shoulder. No one ever really held her until she came here. Thank you, she whispers, for everything. You're my sister, Abby replies, and stretches as far as she can so she can kiss Christine gently on the forehead. I love you. Christine steps away and wipes her face on her sleeve. Loves you too, Abs. She kisses Abby on the cheek and sits down again, slowly, enervated and not wanting to overbalance. Abby takes a step forward, offers her arm as support until she's steady. What was that about being indecently lucky? I meant to ask, Abby says, returning to her chair. How did you talk to Steph? Did you get on the intercom? Too tired and buzzed to make anything up, Christine says sheepishly. I figured out how to hack the biometric locks a little while ago, so I waited till everyone was asleep and just visited him in his cell. Please don't be mad at me. What? Abby says, almost shouting. Christine! She flaps her hands for a second, momentarily too overcome to speak, and then leans forward in a stage whisper. That's amazing. What else can you do?